I would say it was my junior year of high school that my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I don't really remember too much about it because it was like she tried to keep everything as normal as possible, even though that was like a major thing to happen in our family. Um, she had a mastectomy and she went through chemo treatment for I want to say about a year. But during that time frame, obviously, like she was going to the hospital. My dad was taking her for treatment and everything, but she still really tried to maintain like as much normalcy as possible for me, obviously going through school and everything. And then for my brother, I was like 16, 17 at the time, and he's 12 years younger. So he would have only been, around like 4 or 5 years old. So very, very young. Um, and during that time, like I said, it was just kind of like trying to maintain as much normalcy as possible. Like I still went to all of my practices for sports and like for plays, and my mom would try to attend like as much as she possibly could. Um, but I do remember feeling like afraid that something wouldn't work, or that things would turn in like a bad direction. But luckily, in that case, like things turned out well. Everything worked the way that it was supposed to, and she was actually in remission for it was about I want to say maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years, all through college and everything. She was doing well, and then it was after I actually moved to Los Angeles. I was out here, and she had been having some pain in her arm, and I think that had been going on for some time. So she'd gone to the doctors, and they said, "Oh, it looks like the cancer has come back." So at that point, it had metastasized, I believe, to like her bones and just different areas. And so they were like, "Okay, well, we need to start treatment again." And that went on basically until 2020. And then, throughout that time, some treatments would work well. They would have to change treatments. And then in 2020, basically, things were just not working anymore. And the decline was kind of quick. It was only like a few months. And my parents basically told me it looks like she's going to have to go into hospice. And then my husband and I, we were able to go home for Christmas and spend like those 2 weeks from Christmas to like New Year's with her and my dad, and my brother was home as well. Um, and then she passed away. Actually, it was New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, I guess, in the middle of the night. It was like 12:15. So we said she beat 2020. That was like we were saying everybody wants to like get through 2020, and she did. But she did pass away. It was around like 12:15 in the morning. So that was really hard. And I was like feeling a lot of emotions, like happy to be home, to have been there, especially because my brother's so young. He's like going through college. Um, and that's a crazy thing you don't anticipate going through at that age. So I was happy that we were all able to be together. Yeah, just a big loss at a very like pivotal time, I feel like for my brother in particular. For me as well, obviously I'm still pretty young. And it's not something that you think will happen, but it happens, I feel like more often than we realize. And I think that things like this are really helpful to be able to talk about it and like share your story, because so many people I feel like are going through this now and don't really necessarily connect with people and don't really realize, oh, it's actually happening a lot more. People are losing their parents or even grandparents, whoever their caretakers are, at younger ages. So I feel like things like this are important to kind of share that story and be able to connect in that way, even if it's over something that's very heartbreaking.
Yeah. No, yeah, it almost sounds like my mom's story in many ways. I mean, I was a little bit younger, but kind of the same thing. It just kept coming back, and she was, the same way. She just wanted everything to stay normal. And I feel like things didn't really change until she got really, really bad and would kind of need help. She lost her eyesight before she passed away, and so I'd have to like help her around the house and everything. And then at one point, she wasn't really able to walk very well, so she was in a wheelchair, more so when she would go outside. But I remember kind of walking her, pushing her around the neighborhood a little bit. But other than that, you would have, you know, while
Yeah.
she wasn't sick. I mean, she just was very like active and just trying to still do things around the house as much as she could. And my grandma was here helping us too for a while. But yeah, it's sad that they have to go through that and it just keeps coming back. My friend's mom had breast cancer and I was really close with her and she went through the same stages and I actually was over at their house. It was right back, it was in between when I first came back from California and before I returned. It was like in that little gap there, and I ended up staying a little bit longer to be there for him, and I was there just around the clock, night and day. She wanted to be at home, so they had like the nurses and everyone coming in and helping and everything. But I remember just like sleeping on the floor some nights just because he, you know, didn't want
Mhm.
anybody to leave. So it's very intense. I was happy that you guys were able to do a little bit. I know you didn't do like the official wedding, but you did like a
Yeah.
ceremony.
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah, we had my friend. Yeah, it was on the 26th of December. And I had one of my friends who officiates weddings. She was able to actually marry us, and we were able to get our license and everything. I already had my wedding dress, and we, had already kind of picked out a lot of the things that we were going to do for 2021. But yeah, it just worked out and we were able to get a ring and everything. So it was nice that we were able to do that and she was able to see it. She was like, it was beautiful, it was wonderful. And it really was, even though it wasn't the way that we had imagined it to be. It was nice to do that and have her be there.
Yeah. What were um what were some things about your mom like that she liked to do, like hobbies and just things like memories, anything that
Yeah. I would say so. My mom, one of the things that I remember the most, and I still kind of carry with me to this day, is like she was always very good about putting together great outfits. Like the vest that I'm wearing here, this was my mom's, and
oh
she got best dressed in high school. So one of the things that we like to do together is if we were going shopping, like for school or for like prom or whatever, I knew that I could trust her opinion, and I was always going to like get compliments from people like, "Oh, I really like that outfit. That's really different," or "That's just a cool jeans or something." She had a really keen eye for picking out things, which was always really fun. She grew up, just like down the hill from where we live, in Chillicothe, Ohio. And one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was little is like we would have picnics outside. We would go mushroom hunting like in the springtime. So that was always nice, like just being like in nature together. And then I would say like the biggest thing that like we're able to kind of carry on is game nights. Like she's very competitive and very, I would say like her number one game that she would do the best at was Scrabble. If we played Scrabble, it was like more than likely that she was going to win. But it was always really fun, like playing card games, board games, and we would always do for New Year's. That was one of the traditions that I've done, every year since I can remember, is game nights on New Year's Eve. So we would just do like Uno. We had all of the different Uno versions and just like new board games that we would have gotten maybe for Christmas. So that was like a nice tradition that we carried on and still do like to this day as we still try to play games all the time. And which is a really fun like family experience, even if you are competitive and you lose. It's still a good time. So yeah, I had a lot of fun doing those things growing up with my mom.
nice. Was she into acting or anything with the arts?
Um,
Is that
Yeah, so it's funny. The only person that was really involved in the arts was her brother, Ed, and he actually passed away when I want to say 3 or 4. So I only have very, very brief, like fleeting memories of like Christmas time. And he lived in Los Angeles for a time, but he passed away from AIDS when in the early 90s. But he was the one that was actually involved in like the arts and acting. And so I think that's where I may have gotten that love for it. But my mom was always very supportive. She was my cheerleader in the audience. Both my parents were always there for performances because I started dancing when I was 4 or 5, so I was really young. And I would always do plays in school. So that started when I was in like kindergarten. And they would always be there and be like, you did amazing, like you did great. And they would always say, like, if this is what you want to do, like we're going to help you do it. We're going to support you no matter what. And well, for when I was really little, like I even knew I wanted to move to Los Angeles, which they supported 100%. They were like, if that's what you want to do, like you feel comfortable going there, like that's great. So I always felt like she was my cheerleader, even though she didn't necessarily wasn't a performer herself, didn't really like sing or dance or anything like that. She still was there to support me through that dream.
Nice. Yeah, my mom was like that too. I mean, she was definitely like the artistic one in the family. My dad a little bit too. He was really into photography and everything. So I feel like I get some of the interest from both of them. But
Yeah.
my mom was really good at drawing. She would sketch and
Oh, that's
make
awesome. Yeah.
clothes. So she would sew and just any kind of creative thing she was really into. So I don't know that she because I was 12 when she passed away, so I think she saw that I had sort of an interest in acting and things like
Yeah.
that because I would kind of watch like TV shows and then I would like act out little skits and everything, but I feel like that's something I would want to go back and ask her. It's just like if she could tell that I was gonna like pursue that later on.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that she could. Usually, I feel like parents are pretty perceptive of what their kids like interests are going to be, even if they maybe haven't like realized it themselves. That was one of the shows, like soap operas kind of got me interested into acting. My mom and I would watch Days of Our Lives,
Mhm.
and I would always think like, oh, their lives are crazy. Like there would be people that they would die and they would come back to life. There would be like maybe someone's evil twin or something, just like just crazy things. And we lived like in the middle of nowhere, so not a lot's going on. Pretty quiet and boring for the most part. So I was like, oh wow, how exciting.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was kind of one of the shows that we would watch together, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. I want to do that.
nice. Mine was Power Rangers and whatever was on like around that time,
Yes.
like all those kind of martial arts
Mhm.
action shows. I think uh, she could see that I was interested in something like that, which was funny because years and years and years later, I actually auditioned for Power Rangers. I didn't get the part, but I
Even still, yeah, just to audition for
yeah,
it, it's
it
cool.
was
Yeah,
super exciting. I wasn't as interested in it, in it by then, but I just thought, wow, this is really funny that I had such an interest during childhood, and then now I'm an audition for it.
yeah.
Um,
So cool. I love Power Rangers as well.
do you and again, if you're not comfortable talking about it, it's totally fine. But do you remember like any sort of conversations or anything like more towards the end that like any I don't know, like for me, my mom left me a couple letters that she wrote just so I would like sort of have them forever. Is there anything that I know you mentioned the clothes and everything, but is there any like do you remember any conversations or anything like that really stuck with you at the
Actually,
end?
I don't think we really had any conversations like that, and she didn't leave any letters. I think because just of the way that things declined so
Mhm.
quickly at the end, it wasn't something that my parents maybe had anticipated or that she even was willing to accept that it was just going in a bad direction so quickly. So I wish that I did have uh something like a letter or anything like that. And I always that's one of the things that I wish I had maybe tried to get more of is just like a video or like a voicemail or something because I always want to hear her voice. Um, but she didn't really like having her picture taken very much,
Yeah,
which I understand. When you're going through cancer treatment, you don't really look your best, you don't feel your best. So I understand that. We were able to get some senior pictures because my brother was a senior. So we got some pictures together as a family, which was nice. And because it was 2020, like we actually drove out in the summertime to see them because we didn't feel comfortable flying. And that's a nice memory that I'll have as we spent 4th of July at home. So that was kind of fun. But I do think one thing that I did that I'm very like thankful for is I put together like a little book of memories where other people kind of talked about things that they remember or just like things that my mom had liked or just different things that they recalled, and I put it together with pictures just so that I could have that as kind of a memento, because there's things that like, what was her favorite color, or what did she like to do, or oh yeah, do you remember this? And as you get older, like those are things that I might forget, those people might forget, they might be gone. So I just wanted to have something like tangible that I could kind of look back on. But yeah, I wish that I did have a letter or something like that. Um, but I think, yeah, she was mostly focused on just like in the moment, like what I was doing and how are things going for me. So again, even when things were declining, I think it was still kind of trying to maintain as much normalcy as possible, even though it seemed like, we didn't have that much time left.
Yeah. It's hard with the pictures and everything because it was like that with my friend's mom too. Like any if we even so much as had our phones out, she'd be like, "What are you doing? You're not
Yes.
taking pictures, are you?" And I mean, I totally get that, but it's hard because you want all the memories you can possibly get, but you
Yeah,
have
you
to
want to have
really,
something, exactly. But yeah, I definitely understand. Like when I'm feeling sick or just even when I have like a headache or something, or if I don't have makeup on, I'm like, oh, let's not take a picture. Let's not take a video. But it is, it's nice to have those things to look back on later. I will say there was one audition that I did. I think this was back in like 2018 or 19. And I got my parents to be in the audition with me. I was like playing a reporter and I was like, I'll have you guys come in. I'll ask you some questions. You're just like regular people that happen to see this and I'm getting your opinion. And that's one of the very few videos that I have of my mom and my dad and me together. And it's kind of nice and it's a funny little thing, but I'm really glad that I did that audition and they were able to do it and I booked the role. So it's like that's a really kind of fun thing to hold on to. So I'm happy that I have that at least.
yeah. I've got one of my dad that I did, and I'm happy I was able to do that because it was before he was sort of starting just to decline a little bit, and I was happy he was able to be in the video with me, but I
Yeah.
didn't book that one, but it's okay. I
So
still
yeah, still nice to
glad I
have,
have
I
the
think.
video. So, and there might be more too. I mean, um he's still doing all right. So I'm hoping, maybe if I get another one to get him in a little bit. And I also want to do an interview with him too, just to see kind
Oh
of what he
yeah.
remembers about my mom and everything. I haven't fully told him that I'm kind of doing all of this just
Yeah.
because it might be hard for him. But eventually I'm sure he'll find out.
Yeah, no, I would be interested to see because I haven't watched all the videos that you've done and maybe you'll delve into this more as you go on, but I would be curious to kind of hear the perspective of like spouses that have lost someone in this way, because that's one of the things uh we're sort of trying to navigate as a family now. It's like, well, how do we talk about this and how, because it's been a few years now. My brother's still in college and like going through school. And it's like, you don't want to talk about things that make people sad or upset, but at the same time, like, you don't want to just pretend that like this person like never existed. So that's kind of where I struggle to find like where are the times where you can still talk about my mom and
Yeah.
not have people be sad about it. That's kind of the difficulty, I think.
Yeah. Do you find, I know it's only been a couple of years, you said? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
so it was basically January 1st, since it was 12/15, we'll say January 1st of 2021.
Okay.
It's April now of 2024. So
Okay.
three,
I remember
three,
talking to you around the time it was happening. I can't
yeah.
believe it's already been a few years. That's
Yeah, very strange. COVID times and the strike, all of that time sort of like, I don't know, it doesn't really exist or it exists in a weird way. It doesn't feel like normal time in my mind.
yeah. the yearly reminders are hard because like April 1st was the day that my mom passed away, so we just kind of went through that.
Yeah.
And obviously my dad has a hard time with that every year, and for me it's like the first couple years were definitely hard, and now it's I don't know, it's sad, but I just there's just a lot of reflection that goes on, and I just try to I don't know, try to think of as many memories as I can, or I'll pull something out that I have, that she had, and just kind of like, just use that day to do everything I can to remember her. But you sort of like have different, I feel like stages you go through as the years go on, and you just, I don't know, you kind of accept it, but it's just always hard, especially if there's something happening. I did a video about this too. Like if there's something big that happens in your life, it sort of makes it harder.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's one of the major things that I think about, well, for myself and for my brother as well, because and I'm sure you dealt with this since you lost your mom when you were 12. Like there's all of those like milestones that you go through where you expect both of your parents to be there. So like when we got married and had our like, you know, celebration and everything, and then looking back at pictures, it's like, well, where's my mom? So I actually had one of my friends who's an editor. I had him put her in, so I have her in some of the pictures, and it looks really nice. And it's like I know she wasn't there physically, but we felt like she was there, so it was nice to kind of have that reflected in a photograph. But then I think about like, well, when I have a kid one day, like I would want my mom to be there, like to ask her questions and be like, oh, what should I do? Like how do we handle this? And it's like, well, it's something that we'll have to just figure out on our own. And I'm very thankful, to have my in-laws, my mother-in-law. I know will be very helpful in those moments, but it's one of those things where that's the one person that you would want to go to and you're not able to. Um, like for my brother when he's going to be graduating from like pharmacy school, obviously that'll be like a huge moment for him. And obviously all of our family will be there as much as we can, but I know that he's going to be thinking that same thing.
Mhm. Is there anything that um, reminds you like that? Trying to think how to word this. Not necessarily. I mean, it can be like a spiritual belief or anything, however you want to interpret it. But is there anything that like when you're out and about in the world that like reminds you of your mom? Are there any like signs or anything that people, refer to them as that? Like my mom, for instance, like really liked butterflies. So I feel like in maybe not super common situations, but a
Yeah.
lot of times like I'll be somewhere and I'll see a butterfly or one will land on me. And it's just like an ongoing like theme that I've had throughout my life. And it's just sort of like a subtle reminder that she's sort of
Yeah.
still there in some kind of way. Like, is there anything that reminds you of her that you see as you're going about
Um,
your day?
Yeah, I would say maybe not necessarily. And oh, this is so funny. I was just gonna say hummingbirds, and there's like a hummingbird outside my window. That was so weird.
Yeah, that's
But I would say hummingbirds are something that I would always notice, like kind of growing up, and yeah, they kind of make me think of my mom as well. There's something that I see in Ohio more often, just because it's I think one of the more common birds out there, but the cardinals,
mhm.
we sometimes get them around our property, and that tends to remind me of my mom as well. But yeah, that was so strange. There is literally a hummingbird right
Yeah,
outside the window. That was
it's
really funny.
it's
Um,
it's so funny how that happens. Just
Yeah, but
the
and I just love hummingbirds in general. Like they're so cool to like look
mhm.
at when they're just like right outside and you can actually see like how fast their wings are moving. And I think for me that they're sort of poetic in a way because they don't live that long. Their hearts beat so fast. They don't have long lifespans, but they are so cool and so beautiful to see. It's funny. It's like flying around outside the
Yeah,
window. Um, but yeah, it that those would be two things I think that remind me of her for sure.
nice. Yeah, it's funny how that happens. Do you ever have uh, any dreams or anything? Like I haven't had one in a long time, but not too long after my mom died, I would have a lot of
Mhm.
dreams about her.
My dreams are pretty vivid, and I usually remember my dreams, and it's been like that since I was pretty young. But I do have, yeah, pretty, I would say, not regular. That hummingbird is still outside the window. It's really crazy. What's it doing? There's no like hummingbird feeders. But yes, I do have a lot of dreams. Um, and yeah, she's in them quite a bit. And it's weird because sometimes in the dreams I will not know that she's like passed away in real life, but sometimes in the dreams I will know, and I'll be like, I'll give her a hug and want to like cherish it because I'm like, I know this is probably going to be like the last time that I do it, or like I can't hug you in real life, but I can hug you right now. So it's kind of nice to be able to dream about her and have like those little moments. Um, yeah, it is kind of strange to how regularly that happens for me. And it may just be because it's, only been a few years, but yeah, it's kind of it's interesting how that happens. People talk about heaven and you always hope that there is that afterlife where you can meet again with your parents or grandparents. But you don't know what that looks like. And that's what I always say. It's like I hope that I'm able to see my grandparents again, my mom again, but who knows what that will be, like
Yeah.
we probably won't have our bodies, may not recognize the way that we look and things like that. Um, so that's always something that I hope for. But yeah, not everybody can subscribe to that necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. As long as people, I mean, whatever people want to believe, whatever, makes them feel comfortable, um, is good. But I see Zoom is going to kick me off
Oh
in,
yeah, I think we have 6 minutes.
oh, oh, I see now. Okay,
So
cool.
it's doing a little countdown. Yeah.
Maybe I'll upgrade in the future if I keep doing these. But yeah, I appreciate you kind of sharing a little bit about everything, and I'm glad this all worked out. Sorry it took so long, but
No, that's okay.
yeah, I basically just wanted to do this because I don't know, it's been kind of on my mind for a long time, and I was worried when I started that I wouldn't have enough people that wanted to talk about things, and I'm like overwhelmed now with messages and everything, and just random people too leaving comments like they're so
Yeah.
appreciative of everything, so it really means a lot.
What I was gonna say is like I even working on set recently, I'll talk to people and we'll come to find out that they also maybe lost a parent just recently or a few years ago or something to cancer or some other disease or something. But it is, yeah, it's nice to be able to talk about it because that's something really heavy that people carry around, and not that it necessarily makes it lighter, but it sometimes does help a little to be able to just connect and share that same experience because they know what that's like to have gone through that major loss. So it does do something, I think, something good.
Yeah, yeah, I hope it helps people. And um, I always tell people too, like, if they just want to talk and they decide later they don't want everybody to see what they talked about, like that's perfectly fine too. But I was going to set up sort of a support group too at some point over Zoom or something, or if I can get people together in person just to have that. So I'm still kind of sorting that out a little bit, but I just feel like there aren't a lot of, say, middle-aged guys that are talking about these things, and I feel like we're conditioned to sort of not and just to kind of push through it. So I'm hoping to get some of like my guy friends on here too to share a little bit and to kind of open up. So it's been really good so far. I'm glad I did it. I wish I hadn't waited so long, but I was, life happens too and everything, and I was
Yeah.
busy with my dad's stuff, but I think it's good so far.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I'm happy that you're doing it, and I hope it continues and grows. And yeah, it sounds like you're getting a good response from people. I'm not surprised, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's good that people are willing to open up because it is, yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you want to share, or this will be an ongoing
Um,
thing too? So if you think of something later too,
yeah,
I mean, this
no,
won't be
I
like
think
the only time we talk
sure.
about.
I think I shared most of what I wanted to say. Yeah, maybe if we do another one, I wouldn't mind talking about like my grandparents because I lost them when I was oh, 12. I was 12. It was like right after my brother was born. So yeah, that I feel like is something people when they some people have a really like close relationship with their grandparents and they have them like through their life, and then other people lose them at a at an earlier stage. But yeah, I think that would be maybe something to touch on as well. And I would be interested to hear people that that have gone through like maybe a longer struggle with like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that, and how they deal with that. Because that's my grandpa had both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So yeah, it's just it's interesting to hear people's perspectives and their experiences. Um, it does, yeah, it makes a good difference, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to interview some people too that have gone through some sort of illness too, and that, they're in the process of recovering or have
Yeah.
recovered, and just kind of hearing uh their perspective on things too would be really
Mhm.
interesting. So definitely want to do that as well. So cool.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course.